Hey guys, I'm LaKrista with Unscripted, where we're breaking the system, finding root causes, and exposing the lies you've been prescribed. Let's jump in. Welcome back to Unscripted. I'm here today with Suze Freeman. She is a chiropractor here in Edmond, Oklahoma, and she not only adjusts people, but she also adjusts animals. So she's going to tell us a little bit about that. But first, tell us about how you got into chiropractic and a little bit about yourself.
So I am a second generation chiropractor. I practiced with my dad and my sister in Edmond, Oklahoma. So I watched him my whole life. I was the kid that when people were sick in class and they were sniffling, I was like, they probably need adjusted. And that's just how I always lived my life. I'm the unvaccinated kid. We joke around and we're like, she's a pureblood. And I'm like, I am a pureblood. And so for my whole life, I saw him. I was adjusting my babies and my Barbie dolls and all that stuff. And I had told myself for a little while that that was not the path that I felt like I was supposed to go on, just because of being the baby of the family. Biologically, I'm the middle of 7 children. So biologically, I'm the baby of 3. And then I have my oldest brother's adopted. And then I have 3 younger siblings that are adopted. And my older biological brother has his things, and he always told me, like, don't follow the family footsteps, you don't have to be like them,
like
and all
the
this
rebel.
Yes. And he was very much like, I don't know, he's labeled himself as the black sheep of the family, whatever. And so I always thought I was the peacemaker, so I was like, he doesn't want me to do that, so I'm not going to do that. And in college, I was sitting in my house, and I was watching an episode, I remember this so vividly. I was watching an episode of Private Practice, and I remember this episode where the one naturopath was like, people don't have to vaccinate. They don't have to do these things. Parents have a choice just because that kid isn't vaccinated or whatever. And they were mad that the parents weren't vaccinating. And one of the doctors ran out into the lobby with a vaccine and stabbed the kid and gave it to him. And I remember looking at the episode, and I was just shocked. I mean, I grew up that way. My dad would tell all my teachers, because there were several instances when I was going through school of, like a teacher saying that I killed babies and all this stuff. And my dad was like, she's in 8th grade. Seriously, you think that doesn't make any sense? And then in high school, I had a teacher that was like, everybody go get your flu shots. And someone made the comment, like, Susie doesn't get flu shots. And they said, well, Susie's parents are idiots. And my dad was at the school within 2 minutes. And he brought a book, and he met the teacher in the principal's office. And he was like, next time you want to say something about my daughter, you make sure she's in the room, because she will defend herself, and she will probably change your views on vaccines. But so I remember sitting there and watching this episode, and I was studying. I wanted to be an event planner. I was like, I'm type A. I can do all these things. Like, let's plan weddings and parties, whatever. And I'm sitting there, and I remember this episode, and I dropped whatever I was doing, and I called my dad, and I was like, all right, I think it's time. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, I think I want to be a chiropractor. And he was like, well, I knew this day was coming, but I was never going to force you to do it. And so that's kind of always been my passion project, is just to be able to, like, save children in that sphere of things. But then my dog that I've had for, she's 14 this month, and she has vaccine injuries from the rabies shot, has had chronic ear infections her entire life. Didn't really pin down that it was a vaccine injury until recently, but when I saw that animal chiropractic was an option, that was what I wanted to do, especially knowing that I was going to come into practice with my dad and my sister. They don't have the animal certification, so it also set us apart. I don't think there's that many of us in Oklahoma. I know there's like a very small list that has everybody on it and that kind of thing, but they didn't have it, so it was going to be something distinct within our office that I had to. And so I took an extra, I think it's 210 hours to get my animal certification. And it was 7 modules, weekends, and I had to go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We had to do it in class where you learned all this stuff. I mean, I learned all the medicines. I learned all the issues, pathologies, like everything. So I learned the veterinary side because it was for vets and for DCs. And so I had to know all of it. And then we had a hands-on portion. So you had one afternoon that was all dogs, and then you had a full day of horses. And so I got that certification, and it's been a lot of fun. I originally did it essentially for my dog. And then as time has gone on, and I've learned more and more about how to help her in different ways, but I get to see a lot of animals in the office. I've had a lot of really cool stories, but being an animal chiropractor is sad too, because you say bye to patients a lot more than what you say bye to people. I mean, I've seen babies since they've have been born. I mean, I saw their moms when they were pregnant, saw them in the hospital. Now I see them throughout their whole life. And then you don't have to, thankfully, have that discussion with people, but dogs you say bye to a lot more frequently. So I went through a spell of, and I think this was a lot of my own subconscious and self-worth stuff of why do all the dogs I see I'm always their last resort. Why am I their last resort? I'm like, your dog has lost function to its legs, and this is an issue that's happened for a very long time. And then you call me, and you expect me to be the magic thing, which I have those situations too, but more common than not, if they knew what would have prevented it, then we'd be in a lot better position. So it's kind of set the framework of everything. And so I see about, I would say 20% animals in my office. I travel for horses. I kind of see the lulls of horses when I am more busy, or when I was pregnant, I didn't really see horses because that's dangerous in my personal opinion. I didn't want to put myself in that position of being around 2-ton animals that could kick me. But dogs, I will see everything except reptiles. That's where I draw the line. I don't bring
want to adjust a lizard.
No, don't bring a snake in my office. I'm out. So
that's crazy. It was probably a couple months ago too that I kind of had this same feeling, like it gets kind of depressing because with me, I mean, a lot of people think what I do is pretty weird with muscle testing, and they're like, how does that even work? But people come to you when, especially like with a cancer diagnosis, after they've done everything the Western system has told them to do, they've completely obliterated their natural immune system, and then the medical system's like, we can't do anything else. Then they come, and I'm like, we have nothing to work with. And it's like, I wish you would have came first. Yeah. You know? And I feel like that gets really stressful because you do want to help and you do everything, but you know that the outcome would have been much better. Yeah. Had they done this first.
And I think both of our professions in general are sometimes that last resort of whether they're in the insurance model and they want insurance to pay for things, and okay, well, we know that insurance doesn't care about preventative health. Like, they don't give a crap. And so when you have to figure out the value of it, and you're like, well, what's the value for you? But with dogs and people do anything for their dog. You tell them that they need to pay $800 to do this random surgery because they did whatever, and they're like, without it, they'll do it. And so, and dogs don't talk back. So I've never had to deal with the dog telling me something wasn't working. Yeah. And that's what people are like, I don't know if it's working. I'm like, I'm not Santa. Like, you don't have to believe I work or not. That's just how like physiology works. That's how your body works, and innate intelligence and God. And, and so being the last resort sometimes is hard because you have to have that best last day conversation. And I've had it a few times, and there have been times when they'll literally take me to the vet, and the vet lets me in, and the dog's sedated, and you're like, cool, this dog is just... I mean, there are some chiropractors that have done amazing things with lions. They sedate the lion, and he goes and he knows what he's supposed to do, and he adjusts the lion, and then he runs out. And Dr. Whitley, he's phenomenal when it comes to exotics and stuff like that. He's had some really cool experience. He like the giraffes at the zoo. He's gone on safaris. He's done the lions and that kind of stuff. And I also I kind of like my little bubble. Yeah. So I would always love to adjust an elephant. I don't really know what that would look like, but one day I'll do it. I'm gonna need a 2x4 and just figure it out. But that's kind of, it's hard to have those conversations where you're like, if you would have known. And then you have people that when you never think that you have to have like when Caitlin answers the phone and she'll have an animal, she's like, I'm sorry, but have they gotten this treatment or something like that? And you have to turn people away because you're not going to put your name on something that could possibly come back and bite you in the butt later on. Yeah. And they're like, we don't understand. The vet told us it was the magic drug. Okay, well, first of all, let's look at this.
So what treatments would you typically turn them away for if they've had?
I won't see animals in my office if they have had a Librela shot. So
what is that?
It's a shot that they've recently developed, probably in the last 5 years, for osteoarthritis. Okay. And originally, I get mixed reviews that it was made for big dogs to help prevent arthritis in the joints and that kind of thing. But I've had several animals come in before I really knew that they had had that treatment, because people it's kind of like with people, they won't disclose everything. Like, you'll be adjusting, and like, oh, that could have been.
Sometimes they don't know.
Yeah.
You go to the vet and it's kind of like at the pediatrician. If you ask a mom, like, what all shots does your kid have?
Mm-hmm.
They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know the names of them because they go in.
They do what they're supposed to do.
Shots,
they don't know the dosage. And that's what is another thing is some vets are great about dosage for those things if someone decides to get them. Other vets have one standard dosage of everything, regardless of the size of your pet. My miniature dachshund, who's never been over 5 pounds, had the same before I decided to stop giving my dog shots. She had the same amount of DTaP of Great Dane, and it almost paralyzed her.
This is what doesn't make sense for, like, preemie babies to me, because I'm like, okay, if you have a preemie that weighs 1 pound, you're gonna give it the same as like this 12-pound baby.
Yeah, and that's what I even asked the vet, because her leg was huge. She like was whimpering, all this stuff. She was 3 pounds at this point, and I had gotten it just because. So they told me I was in college. I just did all the things, and then she couldn't walk. I was like, what is going on? They're like, well, we'll give her a shot of Benadryl. I'm like, how is that supposed to help? Like, but at the same time, I was like, whatever to make her walk. Yeah. And then they were like, well, it was, a same dose for a 200-pound Great Dane as it would have been for the 5-pound dog. I'm like, that just makes absolutely no sense. And so this Librela shot, I've had dogs come in and they're like, we don't know what's going on, but their legs aren't working. And they have ataxia of their back legs, and they just can't walk unless they're running. And so they're just like dragging their legs, and they were fine yesterday, but the vet swore that this was going to make everything better. And again, people will do anything for their animals to make them live longer. I mean, I've considered cloning my dog, except for that it costs $1 million, and they say that their personalities are going to be different. But so they'll do anything, and then they have all these side effects, and then you tell them what it's going to take to possibly get results. Like, you can't guarantee that's going to happen. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I'll probably just not do that, or we'll see how long
So is it preventative or to treat osteoarthritis?
Both.
Okay.
So I've had one dog that I feel like it's ever actually been beneficial for, and it was a Great Dane, and I could tell, and he was 9 years old, something like that. So, they don't have a long lifespan anyway. And I could tell when I would go to adjust him, I could hear his bones like, thunk, like grating. And she'd be like, oh, he's scheduled for his Librela shot. And she's the only one that I've ever said, like, you need to go get that, because he obviously does better because he was so big and just awkward.
So is it like recurring? Like
some of them are every 2 months, some of them are every month.
Okay.
And I'll make exceptions sometimes if the patient knows, like, what the risks are. That I'm not responsible for paralysis, and you've seen my disclosures about everything. And I've had patients that have had it, and then they felt really like a lot of discernment, and the Holy Spirit told them not to do it, and they don't do it anymore, so they come and see me. And then I've had some that did it, stopped, knew that they wanted to see the progress, so we adjust the dog every month. And then now dog is like kind of at that phase where we're close to the end, but we're just trying to hold out a little longer. And I'll tell them, like, I'll see your dog because of that situation. Like, you're kind of at this, like, give it everything we got.
Yeah.
But if you come because the dog has issues from something that has recently happened, let's,
Not going to add to
that.
Yeah.
I had one dog that he didn't tell me the dog got the shot. It came in, he was like, I don't know what's going on. Her legs aren't working. I was like, okay, well, we'll probably have a disc herniation, because I don't x-ray. I don't have the vet records. In our state, we have really awesome laws when it comes to, it's like a little bit of both. We have awesome laws when it comes to vets or animal chiropractors, that when you have the certification, you don't have to have a vet referral, which is amazing, because other states you have to have the vet referral, and a lot of vets won't refer to us. But in our state, you don't have to do that.
Just because they think it's, like, not necessary, mostly.
But 80%
like this is in the regular medical system, too. They're like, oh, you don't need a referral.
Yeah.
You don't need that.
And most, like, 80% of veterinary visits are musculoskeletal. So they put them on a muscle relaxer, they put them on a steroid, and then they think everything's fine. And most of the time, we are just missing something somewhere. The nervous system isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. We're out of alignment. They jumped off I have a dog that literally walked out a window and jumped off the roof. And dog was so grumpy. And she told me, my dog is so grumpy, I don't understand, but it could have been that he jumped off the roof. And I was like, Yeah, he's a
not a
chihuahua, and
cat.
he dropped off a roof. He got adjusted, and she's like, he's never been so happy. I'm like,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, how is he alive?
I know. She was like, it was a miracle. And so a lot of them are musculoskeletal, so they just get put on this muscle relaxer, and then they're not seeing results. Or then you have the old dogs that they come in and they're like, well, it's probably arthritis. And the vet that my dog goes to is amazing. He has all the different alternative treatments. He's standard process certified for animals. He
It's literally my cup.
Yeah, he
love
does
it.
all the stuff. He has essential oil certifications. He also does AK adjusting. So he has a different certification than I do, but he does muscle testing for adjusting to see like where they need adjusted. He does refer a lot of people to me though, so that way if he's like not needing, like doesn't have the time to do it, and he can only do the adjusting with a certain person as like the tester, because he doesn't muscle test them. He has one of his vet techs do it.
Right.
And only a few of them, he says, actually understand like what's happening. Because I also think there's like a little bit of that mental thing. Like if you don't know what's going on, then people aren't going to let you muscle test properly. You know?
Yeah, and I have some girls in the office, like for kids, like if we're muscle testing a baby, usually the mom can hold them and I can use the mom's arm. But if that baby's acting crazy or is like in a mood, then the mom needs two hands, and I'll like have another girl come in. But there are some people that are just better indirect testers than others, and like I'll have some people I'm like, okay, I can't use you today. Like, I don't know what's going on. But
Exactly. You need to go figure this out.
Yeah, the electrical connection is not there today. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely. Is he the one that also does he recommend some vaccinations or none?
So he has never directly said, don't vaccinate your dog.
Yeah.
Because
this is such a big conversation. And people ask me because they know, I mean, I don't vaccinate my kids. They're like, do you vaccinate your dogs? I'm like, well, so no. I mean, he was vaccinated before we got him. And he hasn't had anything, I don't think, since we've gotten him. And we have a really good vet, and she knows what I do. And she does have hers that she recommends. And she's like, I recommend rabies because if he bites somebody, you're going to cut their head off.
And technically, like I think there's only 3 states that actually allow rabies exemptions for dogs. And we're not one of them.
She recommends that one, and then the one that's like
parvo,
lepto or something is like the bacteria in the urine of other animals or something. She was like, you really need to get those. But we haven't with him.
Well, and a lot of that stuff too, like with heartworms and everything like that, my dogs just get black walnut. I've never given them heartworm medication. Flea medication, I agree. We have chickens, so they take care of the fleas, but my dogs don't get flea stuff. If they do, we use Wondercide. And so anytime they've always done, my dog has never been on heartworm preventative. I just give her black walnut, all of them, black walnut, and it helps with all that stuff.
Like a liquid?
We just put it in their water.
Using. Yeah.
And that's what they'll do. And
you do it every day?
No, we mainly do it in the summer when it's rained, or if we probably should do it more often because my dogs eat so much chicken poop. My German Shorthair pointer, turkeys, so my pointer is relentless. He wants the scraps, and so he has torn through plywood and plastic and to like the actual hardware cloth to get into the coop, just so he can eat their dang scraps from our table. And then he goes and eats all the poop. I'm like, this is disgusting. So he probably needs another like parasite cleanse soon.
Like a daily.
Yes, like we need to do something, man. But that's what we'll do. And he's really great about. He has the aluminum free rabies shot. So he's even on their like holding line. Did you know that we offer rabies?
So does he recommend that?
I think he technically has to.
Because it's not, there's no exemptions in the state. Okay.
And my old vet, he was something. He's retired now. Praise the Lord, because there's a reason I don't go to him anymore. My dog had her ear stuff, which now we know is kind of allergies, vaccines, all this stuff. Our new vet put us on a rabies homeopathic to detox her. So that's been great to kind of help, but it's also chronic. She's had it for 13 years, almost 14 years. But she had a hematoma in her ear, so her ear popped out like the blood vessels, and it had turned into like a balloon. And so I told my husband what vet to take her to, and he took her to a different vet. And he drives up, and he brings her in, and they have no idea what's going on, but they treat her anyway. And so then I'm like, I get a call from the one vet, and like, hey, she hasn't shown up yet. I'm like, where is my dog? Like, what's going on?
Picked a random.
Yeah, he just he went to the vet we used to go to. And so I'm trying to figure out where my dog is, and so then I get a call from the vet she's actually at, and they're like, she doesn't have a rabies shot. And I was like, she's not even supposed to freaking be there. Like,
Get my dog out of there.
Yeah, I don't even know what's going on. Thanks for fixing it. You fixed it really crappy because all you do is work on cows. And so she has all this like scar tissue on that ear, but That's besides the point. And they were like, she needs a rabies shot. And I was like, no, I'm fine. And he knew. He's seen my entire family. And my dad doesn't vaccinate his dogs. Yeah. My sister just had a litter of puppies and none of them have had anything. And my brother actually adopted one. He was like, I feel like I should probably get him parvo because, that's, and I'm like, I understand, but our pointer had parvo and the vet acted like it was nothing. When we were in Austin, the vet was like, oh, you mean the pointer that had a little spell of parvo? I'm like, parvo is pretty serious.
I think, they make it sound like it is.
Yeah, and he got it at a boarding place, and she was like, we just put him on IVs and gave him antibiotics. And, like, I understand, like, the tiny puppies, they probably can't withstand the dehydration. Yeah. He was, like, 20, 30 pounds at this point, so
bigger.
He could handle it more. But even when my brother was like, I'm thinking about getting parvo, I was like, I can understand the reason through those. And there's, some aspect of me is like, in some standpoint, it's not my child. I've seen autistic dogs. Don't get me wrong.
Are you serious?
Yes, my mom's Chihuahua was 10,000% autistic.
I've never even
would lick the wall. This dog. My dad will say, he's like, that dog was off. That dog had some sort of tism. There was something off there. And so I've seen.
My mom's dog is autistic.
Yeah, there are my mom to this day is like, something was wrong with that dog. And I was like, it's either that or there was one night, because he would wake up and lick and like make noises. Yes. And she's like, what is your problem? And we were at a hotel and I remember hearing like this massive thud against the wall. And I was like, what was that? She was like, I accidentally kicked him into the wall. So she was like, it was either that or it was head trauma.
Oh my gosh. So my mom has a Maltese and it's like, I swear it's like 15 or 16 years old. Mm-hmm. It's so old. And the lady that they take it to every week to get, she gives it a bath and grooms it and everything. She requires them to have their vaccines. Uh-huh. So my mom's like, it's old, like it's had its whole life. So this has been something we've like really only been talking about like the last few years. Yeah. And she was like, well, if we go places, he has to be boarded there. That's where he goes every week. So like, if we get another dog, we'll figure it out. But like this dog's, it's fine. Yeah. And I'm like, is it? Because it's like, okay. It has like one eye that goes this way.
This Chihuahua was
has like anxiety
all the time and had heart murmurs, like all this crazy stuff. And my mom to this day will be like, something was wrong with that dog. And I was like, 10,000% something was wrong with that dog. And I've had patients that actually are on the same page where they'll kind of come in and they kind of see how you feel about it. Yeah. And we're very vocal about vaccines in our office. Like very much, like 85% of the patients here, if they started in that field, they like talk about it. I'm like, I have the resources, don't worry, and then we just educate, but I'm always obviously like, your choice, I just want you to have the resources. And
it's like actual informed consent.
Yes.
And I'm always like, if somebody's actually informed, they're not going to choose to do that. Yes. If you actually know the information. And there's a very small percentage of people that will be like, yeah, I understand, but this is what I'm choosing to do. And I'm like, I respect that. But most people, if they're choosing to do it, it's because they haven't done the research and don't understand what it's actually doing. But,
and like they'll have some, and like I said, a lot of them now, they've kind of gone into that, I'm like their crunchy go-to, like what should we do here, what should we do here? And I always tell them like, it's just whatever you want to do. I just want you to feel confident in your decision. But with dogs, I'm kind of like, listen, I understand it's a dog. But also we don't board our dogs because they aren't up to date on anything, and we don't have them groomed. Someone comes to you. There are those options that a mobile groomer will come to you, and they've never asked me if my dog is up to date.
Our groomer comes to our house like once a month for him, and because you can't take him anywhere, and we have like a friend that watches him when we leave town. Like we take him to his house, he watches them because you can't board them. But there are like other options, and especially like in a small town, like if they're not back, like you don't have another option unless you get like somebody, like a friend or somebody to watch them.
Well, and granted, like even then, when we lived in Austin, our dog was boarded, got parvo at the boarding facility, and was vaccinated, and that's just another full thing,
Crazy story. Like we had the lady that my mom takes her dogs to. Our dog went, and this is how. We hadn't vaccinated him in a while, and because he was old and he was healthy, and so we just never went to the vet for anything. And it's kind of like when you stop vaccinating your kids, you don't go for well checkups. Like what's the point? I'm gonna catch flu in the waiting room. Yeah, like I'm not going for you to tell me that my kid's in the 80th percentile of height and weight
I don't need it.
They look healthy.
My kids have never been into a pediatrician ever.
Yeah, so like, everybody's like, who's your pediatrician? I'm like, me and the chiropractor.
Literally.
That's it. That's pretty much it. But we took him. He was going like every 2 weeks, and he would get a bath, and he would get groomed every month, and I don't remember if he was just there for the day or if we had boarded him because we had been on a trip, but they had like this kennel cough outbreak. Mm-hmm. And so we went to take him. She's like, hey, we had, just letting you know, like we had kennel cough. And I was like, he's fine. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have it. He didn't get it. And she's like, oh, like all the dogs got it, whatever. And I'm like, well, he's good. He hadn't had a shot. So we take him back. She's like, I need all the dogs like updated vaccine records because this happened. Cough,
yeah.
And I was like, but you realize he didn't get it.
So,
right?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, we're just trying to prevent it. I'm like, but he didn't get it.
So why would I?
He's the only one that wasn't vaccinated.
Yeah. And that's what I even told my husband at the time, because I remember when he called me, I was in chiropractic school, and he was like, he has parvo. And at that point, my biology class, or microbiology in class in Parker, I definitely got into a massive debate with the microbiology teacher about vaccines. I was just...
Are they pushing them?
Well...
Because usually in chiropractic school, I feel like they don't.
You would assume... Our Parker is very medical. I burned my they gave us white coats during 2020 to prevent the spread, and I was like, this is full of crap, and I literally burned it when I was out of clinic. I was like, I'm not doing this ever again. I went there because it was geographically closer to home.
It's the only one, really.
There's not that one. Oklahoma, is there? No. So there's the one in Dallas. There's one in Kansas City. Yeah. And then the ones that I recommend people to go to are not those. And so I remember it was like my first trimester, and it was just microbiology, and she has this whole section on vaccines, and I had the absences, so I took a few of them. But then on the last day, and it was like the last section, people knew how I felt. I mean, I've always been very outspoken about it. I've known my resources and all this stuff. Yeah, I knew how to defend myself, because you have to know how to, like, have all the stuff. And I remember her saying, like, do we think that it is okay for kids to go to a Mother's Day Out program without shots? And someone, like, nobody was really saying anything, and I shot my hand up, and I was like, if government officials can without their kids getting vaccinated, we can. And she's like, where's your evidence? And I will never forget this. I had a box of stuff my dad had given me, like books and papers and all this stuff.
And take the whole box?
It was in the back of my car, and I was in the back studying, like, not paying attention to her, because I was like, this is such baloney. I don't even need to listen to you. And I was like, in my car. And she was like, and then we just went back and forth, and we had those swivel chairs, and I was on the very back row, and she was in the front of the class, and people were just like swiveling the whole time watching me. And at the end of it, someone was like, I was going to chime in, and you had it. And I was like, oh, I know. But we had a final right afterwards, and I was like shaking, because I was just, I should have said that. Oh, I should have said that. And
the good stuff always comes
like,
to you.
Darn it. Like, and to this day, people are like, oh, you're the one that got into a fight with her. I'm like, yeah. And now I don't think anybody in my trimester vaccinates their children. So you're welcome.
That is so crazy. I didn't know that they were like that, because most of the chiropractors in this area, that's where they went. Mm-hmm. Like, especially in southern Oklahoma, that's where I'm from. Mm-hmm. And none of them vaccinate. Mm-hmm. So I just assumed
you just find your right people.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know if the president of the school necessarily did. The president of the school isn't necessarily my family's biggest fans. They had it. I graduated in 21, and so it was right after all the crap. Yeah. And he was in a plexiglass box so that he could be protected on graduation day. And there was there was no mandate in Texas, so you didn't have to wear a mask or anything. And he still made us all wear them to graduate, and was like, you won't graduate unless you wear a mask. And at that point I was like, technically I don't have to walk across this stage to get my diploma. Like, I have the credits, but it's the principle of the thing. My dad and my sister wouldn't wear them, and the security guard came up to him, and they're like, you have to wear them. But I was like, no, this is not a mandate within your state. I will not be wearing it. And my sister said the same thing, and my mom is kind of like, oh my gosh, because my dad's a big guy. He's 6'2". He's people. Yeah. My mom's like, oh goodness, here we go again. And they won't do it, and they're like, you have to wear it. My dad's like, legally you can't force this. Like, within your state, this is illegal. And I'm like, okay. So security let him go through. I'm at the front. I have this stupid cheesecloth mask. It's so paper thin, but I just have it hung on my ear. And then the school provost comes over, and they're like, sir, we really need you to put a mask on. He was like, no, I'm okay. And they're like, no, but it's, whatever. Yeah. And he was like, no, I'm fine, thank you. They're like, well, Dr. Morgan would like you to wear one. And he was like, okay, I'd like to talk to him. And then they're like, oh, okay. So they walk away. And then my dad and my sister presented me my diploma. So we go around the back of the stage and they're like, you can take off your mask on stage for pictures, but that's about it. And I just ripped it off. I was like, I'm not doing this. And all three of us walked up there and everybody was like, woo! Like cheering. They're like, that was the best thing ever. And there was another girl I was graduating with. Her dad's also a chiropractor and they were sitting behind him just wearing it. And when I asked her when we started school, like, so you're like a chiropractor's kid too. You didn't get vaccines. And she was like, yeah, I did. And I was like, what kind of chiropractor is your dad?
That's what, like, all the chiropractors I know did not vaccinate their kids. And so my kids, so I have 4. So my 2 older ones, they were vaccinated till, I thought they were vaccinated longer, but my mom actually found their old shot records like a couple months ago. And I stopped vaccinating them like 3 and 5. So I was like, that's not as bad as I thought. I thought it was like 6 and 8. Like, wait, but I think I stopped like at a time where like there were years that they didn't have to have them, so there was like a gap there. Like I think I still thought like they were good. First grade and like like I thought they were so good, but like they weren't getting shots actively at that time, so I think it kind of like they got spared. But they got shots and they homeschooled for like just like 2 years, but like for the majority of their school they were in public school. So when I go to enroll them in like junior high, and they were like, we need their shot record, and so I'm like, you have their shot record, and they're like, well, we need one that's up to date, and I'm like, that is up to date.
they're up to date to my standards.
Up to date. And so they're like, no, like they have to have this one, and so like I'm new to this, so I'm like, okay. So I start researching, and I find a lady, and I don't even remember who it was, and she had posted like a vaccine waiver is documentation. Like if they want a vaccine record, like there you go. Waiver is a record. That's the record. And so I took them that with a vaccine waiver, and I asked them first, like, do you have a waiver? Because I thought they had to give you like theirs for their school, and they were like, looked at me like I was crazy, and I was like, I knew that there's a local chiropractor that I know, and he had 3 kids that went through school that I knew were not vaccinated, and there was another teacher that I knew didn't vaccinate her kids. There's the only 2 people I knew in our entire town that did not vaccinate at that time, and I knew their kids were in public school, and I was like, how? Like, and I didn't know them well enough to be like, hey, what? So I started researching. So I just printed off like the Oklahoma vaccine waiver, and I took it in, and the lady was like, I've never even seen this. It's crazy. I was like, well, state law says,
here
and
you
I
go.
Printed off the law, and I was like, here it is. Here's as up to date. Here's the waiver. And then they never called me again. Yeah. And then someone called me from the administration office and was like, hey, like we have some people asking about vaccine waivers. And I was like, I'll email it over to you. Yeah. And so now I guess they keep them in the office, or I have people that will text our office or call and ask for it. I mean, it's just online, just like Oklahoma vaccine waiver, but I just have the link literally saved.
HPR has them, and we have them saved on our computer because we have people.
I have the link saved on my phone. I just text it. Yeah.
The amount of people we had that we signed COVID exemptions for. Yeah. Because of all that stuff. And that was a whole other thing is I got my first sentence from the board from TikTok. Someone had reported me on TikTok. It's like we said,
so
like
you get reported on social too.
Yes. It was literally like a trend that was like with the type of mom you are. And it wasn't even anything, I wouldn't have called it like, I mean, it was a little spicy, but not really. It was like, you know, doesn't co-sleep, but does this, doesn't do vaccines, but whatever. Yeah. And then I said no well checks, and someone commented and they're like, no well checks, I don't understand why. And I was like, well, I don't have a reason to go to a well check, and I'm a doctor, and so I know I know when to take my kids if I need to, and you know, that kind of thing. And I'd also said like within my state technically, which this is where they're like, you know, all the words they say, I'm a chiropractic physician, but in our state you can put me as your child's like primary care on there. So I'm a chiropractic primary care physician, whatever. And this girl was like, you are not a primary care physician. And I was like, listen, I know my scope. I know what I'm allowed to do within my state. And I was like, I'm not here to debate you. This is so not worth my time. But, and she then about 2 months later, I had a fancy little yellow envelope on my desk, and I was like, what is this? And it was a thing from the board, and they're like, we had someone report you because of something you put on TikTok and all this stuff. And I was like, and I immediately knew what it was. And I was like, seriously? And they're like, we went and looked at everything. She provided screenshots of like what you had said. And we looked, and we're like, it's just a formality because we know that you were you're not practicing outside of your scope, and within your state, we have the right to sign physicals and to sign vaccine exemptions and to do all that stuff. And so she's like, we understand, you just aren't a medical primary care physician, you're a chiropractic physician.
Like, I didn't
and I'm
claim
like,
that.
I was like, I never said that. I said I knew my own scope and within my state. And I was like, seriously, how much time do you have? Like, you should have been spending time with your freaking kids instead of looking up what my scope of practice was and sending screenshots of the TikTok to the board.
You don't even know.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know you. And she's like, you're abusing kids. Like, what if a parent's neglectful and all this stuff? I was like, listen,
I'm not gonna sign it if a parent's neglectful.
Like, I was like, I'm pretty sure I know. Like, I'll tell a parent, like, this kid looks pretty sick, you should probably take him to the hospital. Like, I know. Yeah. But I'm also like, really? You had nothing better to do with your time? This is ridiculous.
I'm like, the only time my kids go to the doctor is if we're in the emergency room. It's like, I mean, my daughter's been for like staples in her head. My son was there last time because he broke his arm or his hand. You know, I'm like, those are the things that we're going for. Yeah. I'm not just like, oh, tape it up, you're good.
Yeah, you know? You'll be okay.
But what's crazy is like, people look at us and like what we do. And so my daughter, when she fell and busted her head open, like it was, I think she was 5. She was 5 because my other daughter was a senior, and she slipped off of a statue at the Myriad Gardens and like smacked her head on one of those those plates that are on the ground that say like who donated it, and just smacked her head on it and just busted it open, and you could like see her skull. And so like I just held pressure on it. We're driving, she starts like passing out, throwing up, like full concussion, can't keep her awake. We get to the ER and they're trying to look at it, and I'm like, I'm telling you, if you move this, it's going to start bleeding. Yeah. Like, you need to do the CT scan first, and then, you know, and so they did the CT scan, and then they cleaned it up and stapled it. And so my mom's like, you know, that I call it the gossip chain, prayer chain, whatever. You want to like tell everybody what's going on. And people were like, she took her to the emergency room? I'm like, what did you expect? Do you think I'm going to
let her bleed out?
They let her do a CT scan. I'm like, what about the people are like, what are you going to do with the radiation? I'm like, what am I going to do with the brain bleed?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly. Like, there's also like tools in our toolbox to be able to detox radiation. Like,
yeah, I was like, it shocked me because there were like 3 people. Like, one of them was like, weren't you concerned about radiation? I'm like, no, I was concerned that her brain was bleeding. And then another one said to my mom, like, I can't believe she took her to the emergency room. I didn't know she did that. I'm like,
we're not crazy. I mean, like, people might think we're crazy, but we're really actually sane. We have doctorates. Like, let's think about this a little bit.
It's crazy, but it's just crazy that the perception that people have. Because I'm like, my kids are, I mean, my son just turned 7. My daughter's fixing to be 9. They've never had an antibiotic, steroid, Tylenol, nothing like that. Yeah. And people are like, what do you do with the fever? I'm like, she runs a fever.
We have a fever.
That's
my kids get adjusted and they break it within an hour.
I know. I'm like, they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, we use homeopathy. We go to the chiropractor. We get in a cool bath. We use, you know, like,
we do the things. We have the toolbox, and that's what, it's always like, I'm not dumb. Like, let's think about this. And so it's always interesting. And then they're like, wait, how often do your dogs do this? And I'm like, okay, let's, my dogs get adjusted often too. Like, but I also don't check their temperature because I'm not going to do that.
I'm not going to do that. I don't think I've ever checked my dog's temperature, actually.
I don't. I'm good. I don't do those in my exams either.
Yeah. So on dogs, back to that, back around from our long tangent. I think we talked about that. So, like, what do you recommend, like, you said, like, quarterly for regular, just, like, normal house dogs. What other things would you say, like, hey, you need to bring them in? Like, obviously, like, mobility stuff, but, like, what else would be... Because a lot of people are like, why would you take your dog to get adjusted?
Well, I feel like people look at their dogs and they see them every single day. It's kind of like your kids. You don't realize how fast they grow because you're with them all the time. And then you go somewhere like, they've gotten so big. But when you start to notice something is off, that's when it should kind of be like a light bulb, like something's off. We need to see what's going on. And most of the time in that aspect, people don't think like the limp or we're moving slowly. Why are we itching more? Why are we like whimpering when we shake our head? That kind of stuff. We don't think those things are indicators of what could be going on internally within a nervous system imbalance or mobility, function, that kind of thing. Yeah. Instead, we're just like, oh, they're getting old or that kind of stuff. But it's...
Well, and just like a person, their spine is tied to their organs. So a subluxation in a certain part can cause like digestive issues or something like that too.
Yeah. And that's what we work on a lot of. I can tell the dogs that have had trauma, that have been rescued out of situations, and I can tell the ones that have been on someone's lap or carried in their purse their entire life, but it's also, I have the dogs that you're like, okay, if we look at it in the same way of like preventative care and how do we keep them healthy, dogs run a lot, dogs jump a lot, even the dogs that, one of my professors always said, like, dachshunds will pay your child's college tuition. And because they're so long and they're stubby and they have the long backs where they move and everything like that, that's where a lot of the time we have injuries, and those breeds are more susceptible to those things. And I still get nervous with my miniature dachshund. She jumps off the bed and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, my
daughter she has her second one. Her first one, when she was living at home, would run. Her bedroom was at the top of the stairs, and that thing was, I don't know, I think it was like maybe 3.5, 4 pounds. It was tiny. And it would run up the stairs, and they're so long. And she did start having, like, she wasn't hardly using her back legs. She was dragging, and like literally an hour prior, she was perfectly fine. Yeah. And so I sent videos to our vet, and she was like, because they're so long, they're so prone to back injuries. And she was like, I would just like let her rest, make sure. And then like, she was fine. Yeah. But had I known, because this has been like 3 years ago, I would have been like, take her to a chiropractor. Yeah. But I didn't even know that was a
gravity
thing.
Is so different for them because they're not standing upright. So the way their spine is, it's just this way. So when you put motion on it this way and they don't have other places to really balance it, of course, like, that's going to hit the nerves, and then it's going to hit the back of the legs, and we're not going to walk as well. Or, a lot of times where we get shots in the back of their leg, that's where we're seeing more areas with tumors and that kind of stuff.
And I know like with rabies, they say, we give it in the leg, that way if they get a tumor, you can just cut it off. And I was like, what?
Yeah, like who?
That's why I'm like, now I don't want to give her rabies
I don't want to do
shot.
this anymore. Yeah. I signed a waiver at my vet, acknowledging that they didn't have it, and if something happened, I was responsible. He's never said anything yet. And I'm like, okay, my old vet was like, they'll cut her head off. And I was
That's what everybody, I put on, speaking of TikTok, I was running with him one day and did a video, and it said, like, how crunchy are you? I don't even vaccinate my dog. And, like, most people were like, yeah, me either. Like, because most of the people that follow me are, like, on the same page. Yeah. But some people are like,
you get the random person.
Can't wait till they cut his head off and stuff like that. I'm like,
you don't believe in science.
I'm like, why are you, like, want bad things to happen to people that
I would never wish ill upon your child that got, or your dog that got something, because that's evil. Yeah. Like,
But literally the people that believe differently, it's like, not all of them, but there are. I'm like, they're like, can't wait till he bites someone and they cut his head off. I'm like, are you serious right now?
You have a problem.
First of all, that dog's not going to bite you unless you deserve it. First of all, I'm just like, it's crazy, but yeah, that's one thing. And then I want to talk to your vet too. I want to do a podcast with him.
Yeah, I bet
I want the like full disclosure. Let's talk about it because people. It's kind of like with vaccines. I'm like, I want informed consent, and I don't feel like I'm informed enough to tell people. Like, all I say is like, I don't vaccinate, but it's like, I'm not saying I never will because I don't have, for my dog, for my kids, not, but for dogs, I'm like, I don't feel like I have all the information.
Tim O'Shea, have you read his book? So Tim O'Shea is a chiropractor, and he has a book called Vaccination is Not Immunization, and it breaks down every single shot and the ingredients, but the end has a whole section on dog vaccines. Okay. And it's very thing like, okay, now we've gone over everything with people, let's talk about dogs. And that kind of opened up my eyes to it, but I haven't looked into much more except for like, I don't love the idea of my dog getting a tumor and then my dog having the chronic ear stuff. And that's where I also go back and forth, because like, you get that fear in your head with a newborn. You're like, am I doing the right thing? Like, would this actually help?
That's crazy that you talked about vaccine injuries in your dog, because I see them every day with kids.
I do too.
And, I mean, we know what they come from, and we know what they look like. And I mean, it's usually like learning disabilities, behavior issues, like autism,
eczema,
eczema, asthma, ear infections. But I've never thought about that in dogs. And like, my grandma's dog itches all the time, and they're like, oh, it's like a fungal thing. I'm like, is it? Or does your dog have eczema from shots?
Yeah. Well, we've had her ears tested I don't know how many times, and yeast, bacteria. Oh, it's this other type of rod bacteria. Now it's this. And then the last time it was like, oh, it's something I've never seen before. Let's try this. I'm like, do we actually even know?
So it's something different every time.
Every time. And he's like,
or is there some microbiome imbalance because I shot him up with a bunch of toxins?
Right, exactly. Or because they eat crappy food because...
Well, and with all the different bacteria that show up, this happens a lot of times. I always say, like, bacteria or microorganisms in general, are nature's natural biodegraders. So when you have inflamed or injured tissue, bacteria, your body pleomorphs or makes bacteria to like clean the tissue up.
Yeah.
And this is what happens with, there's a study, and I've posted it several times, and I probably every 6 months I post it again, and people are like amazed, but it's like, every dose of antibiotics that you give your kids, you increase their childhood risk of cancer, or their risk of childhood cancer, because the bacteria comes in to like clean up dead tissue, and if you give them an antibiotic, it wipes that out, but the dead tissue remains. Well, what happens when you have like necrotic stuff in your body? Like your
body doesn't know.
And so it increases their risk of cancer. And so that's why I'm like, not only do I not like antibiotics for like the microbiome aspect, I'm like, that makes me be like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I always tell people I'm not against antibiotics, but I think that they're overused.
Definitely.
And I think that there are a lot of natural antibiotics, and we don't have to jump right to that.
Yeah.
The good thing is, if my kids ever have to have antibiotics, they're going to respond very quickly.
Yes.
They've never had anything.
We're not going to do the full dose like they want us to do.
We're going to do it for like 2 days, and then we're going to quit.
Yeah.
The whole, like, complete the whole course, because, you know, as a registered nurse, people will be like, I started this antibiotic, and then they'll come in and they're like, I started it like 2 days ago. Do you think I need to finish it? I'm like, I can't tell you what to do, but I will say, if it were me, I would not.
Well, and then people always said in school, like, do you want people to listen to the doctor and do their whole antibiotic? And I'm like, no, I don't. And they're like, well, how are they going to listen to you on a care plan? I'm like, it's not the same. Let's look at this. This is not the same. Like, they should
they're coming to me because they don't trust their doctor.
Exactly. They don't want to do antibiotics anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's what with the dogs and stuff, like, she's been on so much stuff, and you get to the point where you're like, okay, let's make you comfortable. But when my sister has puppies, and I was convincing my husband so bad, I was like, I really want this puppy. He's like, we don't need it. And I was like, but it's pure blood. We can do all the things. Like, it'll be fine. And I was like, this other person, once they get it, I know they're going to do give them all the stuff. And he was like,
save the dogs.
He was like, just pray over them. And I was like, I am.
Pray. It's like, I want to get all these kids out of foster care because I know what the parents are going to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like one of those things with dogs. I'm like, if we do it in the preventative sense still, and think about, you know, they're not moving as well. I've had dogs like they're kind of limping, and, you know, they're using 3 legs, or horses, which is interesting about horses is they follow the patterns of their rider. So most of the time, if a rider has hip issues on one side, if they're having shoulder issues on one side, that kind of stuff, the horse mimics them.
Really?
Because of how, so that's always been interesting. And then I always think it's funny because most dogs, they come in.
So do they mimic it and also have that issue?
Usually.
Or is it just like
usually a lot of times when I adjust them, they're like, their right hip is out, this, and this. And I'm like, do you get adjusted? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, is it normally this hip? Is it this sacrum? They're like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, they're following you because of it's like when you sit on your wallet and you have the imbalance in your pelvis and that kind of stuff. They're sitting on them all the time. So they're having those issues because of the imbalance of the horse.
They're compensating.
Kind of thing.
That's
and
so interesting.
It's interesting. And with dogs, like, it's always interesting. I don't think they necessarily mimic their owners, but I know that every time I have a dog come in, I'm like, you are your owner and a dog. Like,
well, like with him, I've had some people be like, he looks like you. And I'm like, I look like a Doberman. But also, my favorite part of the 101 Dalmatians is when they walk down the sidewalk and the dogs look like
their owners. Yes.
Like, I mean, it is like
very common that all the dogs, I don't know what that means about my miniature dachshund, because I hope that I'm not like a little yappy little thing, but I always thought that with my pit bull, she's like tan and has all the, you know, the green eyes and all this stuff, like she looks like me. And I'm like, a lot of times the owners will come in with their dogs and I'm like, yeah, I could totally
101 Dalmatians.
Yeah, this is it.
You need to do your own. You need to like video them as they walk in.
Because my brother is like scruffy and his dog is a black German Shepherd, and then he just got a new dog and he's kind of starting to get gray in his beard, and his dog is a blue Merle, so it has the blue like silver gosh. And I'm like, your dogs look like you.
That's
like,
so funny.
What's going on?
But like you said, with them like adjusting like as they grow, that's kind of what the chiropractor that I've seen for a long time, that's what he would tell me with my kids. Like, after they were born, he came over to my house and adjusted both of them, like, within a day or two of them being born. Yeah. Because my last younger two were born at home. And I would be like, how often do I need to get them adjusted? Because, of course, like, during my pregnancy, I was going, like, all the time. I'm like, how often? He was like, with each milestone. Like, when they start rolling over, get them adjusted. They sit up, get them adjusted. And he was like, because they are going to start moving differently. Yeah. And so that's really what we did. And they didn't have, I mean, they're healthy. And if they get sick, it's like, less than 24 hours, let them run a fever.
It's kind of like the babies, like as you're developing stuff, my husband has a weird thing with his pelvis where like L5 and S1 are fused. And I was like, I think as our bones are developing and that kind of stuff, well, he has a sacralization.
Okay.
And so I was like, I think as bones are developing and everything, if you make sure they're healthy and where they're supposed to be, then you're not going to have less of those weird issues. I mean, things happen, you know, but with dogs, like dogs that are really susceptible to hip dysplasia, if we can make sure everything's where it's supposed to be, a lot of times we can at least prolong the event of it becoming an issue. So like my brother's German Shepherd, I've been seeing him as long as I can remember, and he has been diagnosed with hip dysplasia, but we manage it, and he's still running, he's still doing all the things, even though the vet is like, we don't understand, like, how is it not disintegrating faster and that kind of stuff. And it's a lot of times like, if you keep the integrity of the joint healthy, motion is lotion, and you keep things moving the way it's supposed to. It's like with people, if you're moving and you're healthy and doing all the stuff,
when you stop moving, things start to...
Well, and you make sure things are where they're supposed to be. If we're constantly living with something out, then our body's just going to mimic that and figure out how to make itself feel like it's standing in equilibrium. And same thing with animals. If they're doing funky things, if I've had dogs that have run into walls, I've had dogs that step in holes. I mean, like crazy stuff. You're like, what did they do? And they're like, well, they were running really fast and like hit a wall. I'm like... running into doors.
Like I ran into a door today. Yeah.
And so it's like those kind of things. But if you make sure we want to keep the compression off the nervous system still, because their nerves do innervate their organs. And if we want to make sure that we don't have the pressure in the atlas that's going to their ears and their like their vision and that sort of thing, it keeps them healthy. And they're really, really well, like they understand it. They might be tender. I have one dog, he's the funniest thing ever, and he literally is so vocal, but he will never nip me because he knows. He'll literally like the whole time. I wish he got here, he left right before y'all got here, and he was just so vocal the entire time. And then he'll get up and he'll just shake it out and walk away, and they just know. They like don't think anything of it. And I have dogs that get excited when they pull up because they know that it's not like a normal. It's like the babies that come here like, we want to get adjusted, it's my turn next. Oh, there's something out there. You see the bar.
He's like, cars goes by.
And so that's the same thing with the animals. My sister's puppies, I adjusted them within a week. And I was like, let's make sure all of them are doing things. I have miniature dachshund puppies that I adjusted mom when she was pregnant, because Webster certification is not necessarily a certification in dogs, but they do teach you. It's very similar. Our anatomy is similar enough to know kind of where everything is, round ligaments, sacrotuberous, that kind of stuff. And so I adjusted mom when she was pregnant to make sure pelvis was doing what it was supposed to be doing. My sister, when her dog was in labor, called me and she was like, where am I supposed to be getting this ligament at? And I was like, it's very tiny on a dog. Like, we have to take what we know in people and shrink it down when it comes to like a miniature Aussie doodle. And I was like, so it's very small. And dog went into labor that night. I mean, it's, you know, their bodies.
I'm telling you, I had like false labor for like a week. And it was at night, and it would start at like midnight and go to like 5 or 6 in the morning. And finally I went into my chiropractor, and like he did like the most painful pelvic adjustment with the little clicker thing, and like, oh my gosh. And I literally started having contractions on the way home. I was like, I hope I can make it.
Yeah, I have a lot of people that are like, they come see me and they're like, I had a baby last night. Yeah. I'm like, I mean, I'm really good at making babies poop. I'm good at making moms go into labor.
Yes, it's crazy because I mean, my midwife, I was like, why does this keep happening? And she was like, it's baby's trying to make its way down, and it's hitting something. Yeah. Like it can't get out. So labor is stalling. She's like, when was your last adjustment? And it had been like 2 weeks. And she's like, you need to go get adjusted. And like, literally, I was like, this is crazy. I went into labor, like real labor, not like fake labor. But, so what is like, if you had to leave everybody with like a tip or a recommendation or a crazy story or something, what would you say?
Well, I mean, obviously my biggest thing is start them early.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to wait until something's wrong to get them in. Don't let someone be the last resort, because they are part of your family. And especially if they're really active in that kind of thing, because
running 28 miles an hour.
Yeah. And it's just like, you don't want to see them when they're losing function to their legs. And I'm your last hope, because like I heard you on a podcast one time and my dog had a disc herniation and I heard that it could possibly help. It's like, no, let's start early.
Before they have a disc herniation.
Like with the cancer thing, like come to me before, when you know about those things, so we can actually get on top of it and let your body do what it's supposed to do. Same thing with animals. Care. Yeah, exactly. And it's just like proactive. And I guess that's kind of like my tidbit with that, is just like start early. You innately know, use your discernment to know that like something's off. Yeah. And Holy Spirit will tell you. And same thing with people. But I just think that we need more knowledge about alternative medicines within animals too. And just to know that the resources are there, just because there's way more. Like one of the things you posted the other day about allergies, like the homeopathic, my vet literally prescribed or gave it to my dog.
That was crazy. I was like, that's a really, because my grandma's dog that itches all the time. I was like, gonna have to take Tiger some Allergena over there. Yeah.
So she's crazy. On that. We have it for her and that kind of stuff. And so I think that there's more resources than people know, but I think people don't realize that like the crunchy world can also go to your dogs. Yeah. And go to your animals or whatever. We need more
resources for that.
Definitely.
If anybody has crunchy dog resources, we need to do a podcast.
Yeah. I'll get you in touch with Dr. Roach.
Yes,
he
for
has
sure.
all the things.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks. So basically what we start with, and since I've seen him before, I kind of know how he moves, but we see how they move, their range of motion, that kind of stuff. So we can do different ranges of motion, like this way. We can check how much his neck wants to move. We normally go back to the ribs and then back to the hips and see how everything's going that way. You don't like that side as much. Or you just not wanting to? There it is, yeah. And then we can go all the way up to see how much extension and flexion they have. And that normally tells me how everything's moving in the neck. And then after I kind of watch them walk, which I do that when people come in, or I'm watching them as they, come in, we'll assess movement and motion. So with him, we kind of check to see if everything's bouncing and moving well. Good job.
I can't believe he's just sitting there. Do they usually like it?
Mm-hmm. So dogs are really perceptive because most of the time, at least dogs that see me, they don't have to worry about stress. So they aren't worried about when they're getting fed, if they have a place to sleep, not getting neglected, that kind of stuff. So they hold adjustments longer, but they understand that you're not trying to hurt them. Doesn't mean we don't have pain points, that we don't nip and sometimes like that if we have sensitive spots. But normally they're really perceptive to it. Signs that they like it are they'll lick their lips and kind of chew. And then afterwards, we like when they do a big full body shake because it resets their nervous system. So then as he's standing, you can see we see his whole head kind of bouncing, but right there he didn't like it as much. And he kind of pulls back. With how he's built, Dobermans, German Shepherds, dogs of that nature have more of a different pelvis. So they don't have as much mobility right here because of how their pelvis is set, just so they could be fast. They were bred to be fast dogs. Here, bud.
I think he runs like 28 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Oh, you're already doing it for me? And so normally if they're nervous, which he's not, we start with their neck to calm their nervous system down. And then I like to have people, even if my old dogs, unless I've adjusted them for a very long time, I always have owner or someone that can handle the dog, hold their head, because even if it's tender and they bite back, they don't have much distance compared to a horse. Yeah. So if they bite, then that's not fun either. And then we can also look at, there's like a reflex. Stand up. Hey, I don't want to get fresh with you, buddy. Come on. So there's a reflex. We can go down along the side of their spine to see if they kind of have like a twitch. And his doesn't, which is good. We don't want to see that, but normally that tells me that something's not communicating as well. I know. All right, ready? Good boy. Ooh. Oh, I heard that. There you go. I've had one dog, which was my little sister's. Yeah, my little sister's best friend had gotten a puppy, and I don't know why a 17-year-old got this puppy, but love her to death. There we go. But she had, the dog had somehow gotten a hold of mom's hydrocodone and ate half a bottle of it, and she came over and was joking around. I was like, that's not actually safe. We should probably check him. So I'm checking him. I go and adjust him. He throws up every single pill. Oh my gosh. So I was like, yeah, let's make sure he doesn't do that again. Good boy. You're okay. And then when they are super active and run a lot, like he does, I always check their shoulders too. And that normally is good boy. And I check their toes because you run on land a lot. Good boy. Yeah. I know. I've had one dog ever that I've actually been concerned about my safety, and it was a 200-pound Great Dane, and dog was rescued out of a drug home, but I just hit the right spot, and he made this really low growl and went to turn, and I was across the room within 30 seconds.
I know my kids will always be like, he bit me. I'm like, he didn't bite you, he doesn't have thumbs. That's how he's grabbing. And he doesn't ever leave. It's just like a little red mark.
And a lot of times too,
Oh, still.
I know, that hip knot is comfortable. Where is he at?
Is he out of alignment?
A little bit. From running, so he doesn't like that hip adjusted as much. He didn't like it adjusted either last time. See that? I know, but I'm sorry, that's private parts.
He keeps sitting back down.
Do we need to lay you down? We can lay you down and do it. Here, lay down. We're gonna lay on this side though. There we go. I know. He's like, I'm not doing this. You gonna make me work for it?
So is it just out just from running, you think?
Usually. Could have been like if he stepped in a hole. If he's, oh, there we go. Yeah, you don't like that one as much. All right, ready?
So.
There we go. Good boy. Good boy. All right, all done.
All done. Good job. So how often, if they're like healthy, do you recommend that?
So there we go. And that shake normally tells it everything in the nerve system to reset from brain to spine or tail. So I recommend normally dogs that are healthy and don't have a job of any sort, like they don't performing that kind of thing, we do once a quarter.
Okay.
My older dogs, I do it once a month based on progress or the injury they had prior. And then my dogs that actually are agility, perform that kind of stuff, we do it based off their training schedule. Because we'll normally get them adjusted before and after, and then kind of do it based off when they perform. So
his only job is just
protection.
Well, not even that right now. He's just a nuisance because he's a baby, but hopefully pretty soon that will be his only job. But all right, you want to take him in there?